Hi everybody and welcome to All About Pinot, Cured 18th and 21st first virtual wine tasting. I'm Kyle Flanagan, the Assistant General Manager and Sommelier here at the restaurant. And while we are not open because of the entire quarantine situation, we have a fabulous wine tasting for you today. Lots and lots of turnout for this. So thank you to everyone joining us during this wine tasting. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. This is going to be pretty amazing. So All About Pinot today. With the great help from our friends over at the Meriwether District and Howard Hughes Corporation, we were able to put this together. So 3 different Pinots today. We've got a Pinot Gris, a Rosé from Pinot Noir, and a red Pinot Noir as well. So some fantastic stuff. We're going to jump into the Pinot Gris, the first wine today. It is from King Estate in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. It's down in the southern tip of the Willamette Valley, just southwest of Eugene, Oregon, which is where the University of Oregon is, just to put a little perspective there. It's founded in 1991 by the King family. They're kind of now known as the King of Pinot. And that's because Ed King, when he first developed it, he really wanted to bring Pinot Gris to the United States, to kind of put it in the forefront. So it's their flagship wine, first wine they started making, still make it today, along with Pinot Noir, and a couple other varietals, but Pinot Gris, the flagship of King Estate, really amazing stuff. So they are the largest organic winery, certified organic winery in the world. They have 314 acres of Pinot Gris that this wine is sourced from, kind of all over the Willamette Valley. Low yields, really amazing stuff. Brent Stone, the winemaker, he's been with them since 2016. Came in as a chemist to help run their lab, fell in love with wine, ended up going back to school for winemaking, and helps make this incredible wine. And actually, their head of viticulture that runs the vineyards themselves is a Terp. He graduated his undergrad from the University of Maryland, which is pretty fun, I thought. So the winery as a whole makes 350,000 cases annually. They didn't actually release how much they make of the Pinot Gris, but not a massive production winery, and the Pinot Gris doesn't see any oak. So they kind of focus on this fruit-forward freshness. Also has this wonderful, wonderful viscosity that lasts throughout it. But a lot of fun. I really like this wine. When you go through and taste it, there's a couple things that I like to think about while I'm tasting wine, and we'll kind of talk about them as we talk about all 3 of the wines. But the first one is those initial smells. I think the nose is very important when you're talking about tasting wine, because we taste mostly what we smell. And it's not all about the fruit. The fruit is a huge component, but then there's also other non-fruit components, the earthiness, whether it has like a grassiness, a minerality to it. The use of oak kind of changes when you smell an oaky wine. You have that like kind of sweet vanilla at times. The tannin, the structure, the acid, all of these things are important when you're tasting and thinking about it. It can be a lot of fun to do that. This one definitely has a lot of like key lime, nectarine, very sweet, rich fruits. Finishes through with this beautiful minerality, like crushed gravel almost. Really wonderful wine. And then the last thing that I like to do when I'm tasting through a wine, and you can do this yourself, I learned this actually from somebody that comes into the restaurant and has wine tastings, and known him for years through business and things like that, is he has a little wine group, and they rate their wines 1 through 5 on how they think they fared on the scale. And then without knowing the price, they try to guess the price of what it would be if they were to go to their local liquor store or something like that. So that's a kind of fun one that I learned from them, and I like to do now. So that's the Pinot Gris. Second, we'll go into the Starmont Rosé. So Rosé of Pinot Noir from Starmont Winery. This is out of Carneros, down in the southwest corner of the Napa Valley in California. The winery started in 1989. The first label that ever went on it in '89 was, they only had one wine. It was a Chardonnay. They were part of the Merivale family of wines, and they wanted to kind of sell this more approachable value wine out of Napa. And so they made the Chardonnay, and things had changed throughout the years. After 15 years at the St. Helena facility with Merivale, things just kept moving and changing and changing. And finally now, after about 30 years, they are a full-fledged brand that make a wide variety of different wines. And they're back at Maryvale making wine with them again. Carneros, where this wine comes from, is very important because it is a cool climate region. For Pinot Noir, that's an amazing thing. And because of where they are, they get this cool breeze, foggy mornings that provide almost a blanket from the warmth that protects the wine. And it ends up being a really, really delicious wine. This one is 100% Pinot Noir, sourced from different vineyards within Carneros. And they actually source all the wines separately, use different winemaking techniques on each batch that they source, ferment it separately, and then blend it in its final stage after it's almost a completely finished product. And they do that so in a similar way to what Champagne does, they can continue to produce a great product vintage after vintage. The big difference being this is vintage and a lot of Champagnes are not. But that way they can ensure that they're putting out a quality product year after year, no matter of the weather, by blending the different sourced fruit. Jeff Crawford is their winemaker, doing an excellent job. Been with the company for a long while now. Started with them in 2007, and just kind of worked his way up through the ranks. He's been their winemaker now since 2014, and he's just continuing to put out some of the best wines out of Carneros. So tasting through this one, again, I like to go through those different components, kind of smell for those different fruits. Lots of citrus, strawberry, watermelon, kind of those nice summery things that are going on in this one. And then I kind of search for those non-fruits, those minerals, and all these things are, they're different for each person. So no matter what you're smelling, what it's reminding you of, whether it catches a memory, it can just be your memory. It can just be your scent. It doesn't have to be influenced by other people. You can smell, you can taste, you can have any opinion you want of it, and that's the fun thing. For me, a rosé is wonderful in the late spring, early summer. Love it sitting out on the deck, enjoying a nice fresh salad, cold rosé, can't go wrong. And if you want to continue the tradition that I've been having some fun with, rate it 1 through 5, guess a price. And that's kind of fun to me. And then the other rosé, which I don't have here right now. So if you had the Starmont, perfect time to take a break, walk away, have a cocktail halfway if you want. Doesn't matter to me, whatever you want to do. But if you do have this, this is the Four Graces, well, not this one, but the Four Graces Rosé is the other one. This one being out of Oregon, also from Willamette Valley, but a different part of Willamette Valley. This is actually up in the northwestern section of Willamette Valley from a region called Dundee Hills. To give you a little basic idea, it's southwest of Portland, but still north of Salem. And this is from Four Graces. In 2003, the Black family started Four Graces. And when they first bought it, they bought this little parcel of land that was previously a vineyard, and they wanted to change it into a completely sustainable property. So they wanted it to be well tended, sustainable, and just run it as they thought it should have been run. They're thinking of a name for it, couldn't think of anything better than to honor it after their 4 daughters. So they named the vineyard the Four Graces, as they were graced by their daughters. Tim Jones, the winemaker, been with Four Graces since 2018. Excuse me. Really small production there. Only has 4 other people at the winery working with him on a day-to-day process. He likes to, tell people like every day is a unique challenge, which is very fun for him because he is from start to finish part of the entire winemaking process. He sees the grape from the vineyard into the winery, making the wine, sees it bottled, and he loves it. He loves it. He's able to be a part of it. And I think that's kind of the charm of these smaller wineries that are a lot of fun. Four Graces was sold to the Bill Foley estates. Now the Black family is still proprietor, just kind of working with Bill Foley, who's a phenomenal winemaker in the region as well. But this wine, made from 100% Pinot Noir, hand-picked early in the season, preserving that freshness, nice bright acid, pressed whole cluster, and it gets a little bit of the lees contact. So the lees is, as the wine ages, some of the yeast starts to fall to the bottom of it, and it ages on that kind of fallen yeast, a little bit of stirring just to provide this amazing creamy texture. Now, when you smell it or when you taste it, you might get this little hint of creme fraiche, and a lot of that is kind of from that little leesiness, which is really, really delightful. They also aged it for 5 years in neutral French oak to provide some of that kind of textureness as well. So when you're going through that tasting and you get to the structure part of it, start thinking about how it feels. You know, that mouthfeel is very different. It's not as light and fluffy. It's got a nice richness to it that's just really, really pleasant. I enjoyed that. Very different from a lot of other rosés, but a lot of fun. I think Four Graces knocked it out of the park with that wine. And then last but not least, we have our red Pinot Noir. This one from Steelhead Vineyards. Steelhead, named after the steelhead trout. The proprietors started in 1998, Katie and Dan Lee's husband and wife, and they wanted to kind of protect the environment that they were making wine in, and they wanted other people to really think about that too. They've been following this mission called Better Wine, Better World, and they focus on different water conservation techniques and, you know, really protecting the natural habitat of the fish that were living in the properties that a lot of people are now making wine in. So I really enjoyed learning that about the family. I thought that was pretty awesome that they're doing what they love, but also protecting what they love at the same time. Now this is in Monterey, at the north end of the Central Coast. Monterey is kind of known for Chardonnays, but up there where they are, it works really well for Pinot Noir. I think the cool climate provided an amazing temperature to grow the wine. Doesn't really get above 75 degrees. And I think they knocked it out of the park with this product. They were consulted by winemaker Hughes, who is kind of known for cool climate Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs. Came from a winery in Sonoma by the name of Flowers. Also worked in Russian River Valley with Linmar Estate. And with this wine, they aged it in combined tank and barrel for about 10 months. And it just gave it this kind of little subtle toastiness that is just right on the finish, not over the top, not too much oak, just a little subtle toastiness. They also did the same thing that we talked about with the lees stirring to provide that kind of rich mouthfeel, richer texture, a little bit creamier. I think this one's absolutely beautiful. It's really versatile, which is a lot of fun when it comes to pairing. Salmon works really well with Pinot Noir. You could do a lean steak like a filet mignon, also excellent. And my personal favorite is I love Pinot Noir and duck breast together. I think with those two together, always a 10 out of 10 for me. But go through, you know, taste it, think about those different fruits. This one I think has a lot of rich cherry, dark cherries, fresh strawberries. And then you get those non-fruit smells, baking spices. That toasty oak that we were talking about kind of comes from that. And it just really rounds out all that fruit and makes it a very, very pleasant wine to drink. So I really enjoyed all of these wines. I hope you did as well. Thank you for joining me for our first Cured and 18th and 21st virtual wine tasting. It's been a lot of fun. My email address is kyle@weckerhospitality.com. I know that I haven't been able to interact with you as much as I'd like, as if I were next to your table like I normally am. But please send me any questions you might have about the wines. Love to chat about them, love to answer questions. And even if you just want to chat about wine in general, it doesn't have to be these. We will be open eventually, and when we do, can't wait to talk about some wine with you. So thank you all for watching. Again, happy Mother's Day, and thank you to Howard Hughes Corporation and Downtown Columbia District for making this all very possible. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.